Welcome to week 4. We'll be discussing hallucinogens this week. So hallucinogens are meant to disrupt the messages in the brain that are being perceived. So it produces radical changes in the person's mental state by creating a disconnect between the physical world and the user's perception of the physical world. And that's what would be classified as a hallucination. So it's either any kind of sensory hallucination. So it could be visual, auditory, even olfactory, so smells. So illusions and delusions. So this is a loss or confusion of body image. So it's how your body relates to the space around you. Altered perceptions of colors, distance, shape, apparent distortion, blending or synthesis of senses. So things like seeing sounds or smelling colors. So when you're hearing music, you're seeing purple. But it can also cause severe anxiety and panic. Many ways of administering hallucinogens, pretty much any way to administer it. And at low doses, the reaction is not always the same each time the person takes the drug. So depending on the environment the person is in, it can change the effect. Depending on their state before taking the hallucinogen. So if they're already having anxiety, that might change the perception of the hallucinogen. If they're angry, etc. So flashbacks. So it's technically called a hallucinogen post-perceptual disorder. They're not very common, but when they do occur, it's really intensifying other mental health concerns the person may already have. So the flashbacks are usually visual, and these can occur months or years even after just having one dose of a hallucinogen. So the tolerance. So somebody can have a complete tolerance to the physical effects of the hallucinogen within days of regular use. So if you were to use the same substance for a few days, you wouldn't have any physical side effects of it, but a complete tolerance to the effects is called tachyphylaxis. So there are many types of hallucinogens, and they're classified as either natural or synthetic, and the majority of the synthetic ones are prohibited, so they've been classified as illegal. Hallucinogens are banned based on a chemical structure. So when looking at the chemical makeup of a hallucinogen, that's how they're classified under the law. And this is why a chemist will alter the chemical structure, so hallucinogen is no longer banned. So you will see mild variations in the chemical structure of hallucinogens, so that way they can say, oh, this isn't the same, and technically that's true, so that way they can't classify it as illegal. And again, they create new substances all the time. That's why it's very hard to keep up with what types are out there. So what I'd like you to do, there is a video. It's called Designer Drugs: Uncertain Borders, and this is under the Films on Demand through the Fleming Library. It's about 51 minutes, so it's a bit of a lengthy one, but it will give you a good sense of various types of hallucinogens and a bit of the history. So you can either pause now or you can wait till the end, but I would suggest doing it now if you want to pause this voiceover and go do that. So the 4 categories of hallucinogens we're going to be going through in the next slides. So the first one we're going to look at are the LSD, so lysergic acid diethylmide-like hallucinogens. So these ones are similar to serotonin, so they're going to impact serotonin in the brain. They have no secondary psychoactive effects, so meaning they're not going to have a stimulant property like a cocaine, or they're not going to have any depressant effects like an alcohol. They're just going to be doing hallucinogenic properties. So LSD specifically, so it's colorless, tasteless, odorless. It's the most potent of all hallucinogens. So it is a semi-synthetic. So a chemist found that this type of fungus was able to create hallucinogenic properties. So it's created from a fungus, but it's chemically altered. So the field effects are about 30 minutes and it lasts up to 12 hours, but the effect is unpredictable. So they don't always know how the effects will impact you. So there are the physical symptoms would be increased heart rate, elevated body temperature, reduced appetite, nausea, vomiting, as well as many others. There are no known deaths caused by LSD, but you are more likely to die by accident or suicide related to the effects of LSD. So meaning you might be hallucinating, you might believe you can fly, those kinds of dangerous things. You might be hallucinating and believe these things, and somebody may die. But the actual chemical itself has not. There's no known cause of death. Has not caused any deaths. So it interrupts the rational cognitive processes, alters perceptions, feelings of loss of control, fear and panic, as well as there's also positive emotions as well. Nobody would take this if it didn't have some positive effect. This can also trigger a psychosis or a schizophrenia in people who are prone. So if they're genetically predisposed to a psychosis or a schizophrenia, the LSD might in fact trigger that. So it may experience several different emotions at the same time or swing quickly. So somebody might be very unpredictable when on LSD. Also things like amotivational syndrome, so not feeling like they want to do anything, apathy, disinterest. There is a link here to some CAMH information regarding LSD. So I'd like you to take a moment now to pause and look over that. So next one we'll discuss is psilocybin. This is the active ingredient in the Psilocybin mexicana mushroom. It's been used in various religious ceremonies. It's derivative of tryptamine, which is similar to LSD, and dimethyltryptamine. Again, it impacts serotonin. The effects are about 30 minutes and last about a few hours. So it is 100 times less potent than LSD and has a shorter effect. So it's similar to LSD, but it won't last as long, but it's not as intense. So in its pure form, it's a white crystalline material, so like grainy. It can be a dried brown mushroom, or it could be even in a capsule containing the powdered material. So it's usually taken orally, but it can be injected. The physical effects, so looking at increased blood pressure, body temperature, nausea, and vomiting, which is similar to LSD, and looking at distortion of visual stimuli and pseudo-hallucinations, distortion of time, space and body image, heightened sensory awareness, synesthesia, which is the perception of melding of the senses. So you can see sounds and hear colors and that type of thing. Impairment to concentration, attention, cognition, and memory. So there's no real physical dependence and no real abuse potential in this type of drug. So another LSD-like hallucinogen is DMT. So this is already a chemical found in the brain. So it is an endogenous to the brain. It's naturally excreted by the human pineal gland and may play a role in dreaming. So it's similar to psilocybin, and it's been used by indigenous people of South America. It's usually consumed in combination with marijuana, so it's either added to the marijuana and then dried and smoked, or can be made into a tea and drank. So rapid onset of the effect and intense and can cause a panic attack. But the effects diminish quickly within 30 to 60 minutes. So it acts as an MAOI, which is a type of antidepressant. But as like any MAOIs, there's certain drugs and foods that can be fatal when you combine with them. So very careful. LSA, so lysergic acid amide. It's an ergot alkaloid called LSA. Is a psychoactive ingredient in the family of plants. So this includes the morning glory plant. So it's related to LSD, but it's 1/10 as potent. So it's much less potent, but it is similar to LSD. Usually by chewing the seeds of the plants, effects usually about 30 to 90 minutes and lasting up to 8 hours. It can be injected when the chemical is extracted from the seeds. Visual and auditory hallucinations, perceptual changes, depersonalization, tachycardia, meaning irregular heart rate, hypertension, flushing, and synesthesia again, so all very similar to the other LSD-like hallucinogens. Memory loss, anxiety, fear, acute psychosis, suicidal thoughts and attempts. Using traditional Chinese medicine to treat a variety of ailments as well. So the next classification we're going to look at are the mescaline-like hallucinogens. So these are similar to amphetamines and norepinephrine, so it has a secondary stimulant property. So this type causes some kind of a stimulant in the person, as opposed to the last one, which was purely hallucinogenic. So this one has stimulant and hallucinogenic properties. So DOM, its street name STP, so Serenity, Tranquility, Peace it stands for. Chemically, it's related to mescaline and amphetamines. So it's more potent than mescaline, but less potent than LSD. So DOM was created as an effort to treat schizophrenia. So it was actually a medication thought to help treat it. Unfortunately, it did not. So it's usually administered orally in a pill or eating it. It causes sleeplessness, dry mouth, nausea, blurred vision, sweating, and shaking. At low doses, it acts like an amphetamine, so a stimulant. At high doses, it's more exhaustion, confusion, excitement, delirium, convulsions. So a bad trip would be a severe reverse reaction, and this is frequent. The effects of the drug can last up to 24 hours, so very frightening. A prolonged psychotic reaction, so similar to what it would look like for somebody with schizophrenia, but there is no physical dependence to this drug. Another mescaline type, so again, has a stimulant effect as well as hallucinogenic, is Jimson weed. So it's a member of the nightshade family of plants. So these are atropine, hyoscyamine, belladonna plants, so they're poisonous plants. There's various names for these, so local weed, devil's weed, stinkweed. The psychoactive components is atropine and hyoscyamine. They have vivid hallucinations if the leaves are dried and smoked. If fruit pods are eaten, it can cause bizarre, violent behavior, so it can be very unpredictable. A teaspoon of seeds from the Jimson weed can cause an overdose, resulting in coma and death, so very dangerous. The physical effects would be dilated pupils, flushed skin, confusion, blurred vision, increased heartbeat, and anxiety. So mescaline itself, it's the only entirely natural alkaloid in this drug family, and but it can be synthesized, so meaning created by a chemist, somebody who can create this. So it's prepared from the Mexican peyote cactus and San Pedro cactus, so it's naturally occurring, used in religious ceremonies and reports of mystical experiences. So the head of the cactus is dried, sliced, chopped, ground, sometimes placed in capsules and swallowed as a pill. Can be smoked and sometimes injected. It's less potent than LSD, but more potent than marijuana. At low doses, it's slow because it's usually eaten. So it's slow appear of the symptoms and it lasts about 18 hours. Dilation of pupils, increased body temperature, muscle relaxation, nausea, vomiting. Also causing euphoria, heightened sensory perception, visual hallucinations, perceived alterations of the body image, and difficulty in thinking. There are no reports of dependence or withdrawal from mescaline, but at high doses you can see headaches, dry skin, low blood pressure, cardiac depression, so slowing of the heart rate and slow breathing. And hallucinations can begin about 1 to 2 hours after you take it. So MDA, so it's related to both mescaline and amphetamines again, produces a combination of LSD and stimulant effects. So it's usually taken orally, and it usually starts within 30 minutes and lasts about 8 hours. Low dose, a sense of peacefulness and emotional closeness to other people, calling the love drug. Heightened tactile sensation, so feeling like you can feel like you're touching things, intensified feelings, heightened level of consciousness, increased self-insight, but no hallucinations. Physical effects, dilation of pupils, increased blood pressure, all the similar things to other stimulants. At high doses, it's an amphetamine-like reaction. And hallucinations can cause seizures, respiratory insufficiency due to spasm of chest muscles, so very dangerous, and you can die from this.